They say when a house has stood too long, it begins to remember the footsteps of those who came before. And sometimes, if enough pain is swallowed by its walls, it no longer remembers silently. It speaks, it breathes, it hungers. Crescent Lodge was one such house. It sat on a hill just outside a quiet village, its silhouette forever bent against the wind, its windows like watching eyes. For years, villagers whispered warnings. Do not go near it during the storm season. Do not answer if it calls your name. Some laughed at the old tales, but those who did rarely laughed for long. They either left the village altogether or were never seen again. Ada had heard the stories since childhood. She had been told to stay far from Crescent Lodge, to never even look at it after dark. But now, she was inside it, standing at the foot of the stairs, candle trembling in her grip, her breath rising and falling like a hunted animal. The storm outside had quieted, but inside Ada's chest, the storm only raged louder. The silence was worse than the thunder. It pressed against her ears, thick and suffocating. Every creak of the wooden floor, every draft that slipped under the door, made her heart pound harder. She had promised herself she would leave this place once the rain ended. Yet something stronger than fear, an invisible pull, dragged her back toward the stairs. The whisper had not been a warning. It had been a summons. She told herself to run. She told herself to resist. But her feet betrayed her, carrying her step by step up the groaning staircase. The shadows stretched across the walls like long fingers, reaching, beckoning, curling around her like they knew her name. And then they spoke. Ada. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Clearer now, sharper. Her name slid down the walls like cold water. Her candlelight shivered. She froze, her chest tightening as though invisible hands had wrapped around her ribs. She swallowed hard. Who's there? The lodge answered with silence. Ada forced her trembling legs to move again. The upstairs hallway was darker than she remembered, darker than it should have been. It was as though the shadows had thickened, clotted like blood in the air. Doors lined the passage, most shut tightly, but it was the one at the far end, the one with no number, that made her skin crawl. It stood slightly ajar, as if it had been waiting for her all along. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She lifted the candle higher. Its weak glow barely reached the door. She wanted to turn back, but her hand stretched out before she could stop herself. The whisper came again. Ada. Her trembling hand pushed the door open. The room inside was colder than the storm outside. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of wet earth and old candle wax. The walls seemed to lean inward, as though the room itself wanted to close around her. And there, on the bed, sat her cousin. At least, it looked like him. His clothes were torn, his skin pale as if drained of blood. His eyes were wide, glassy, unblinking, as though he had not closed them in days. Ada's voice broke. Chima. Her cousin's lips moved, and a sound crawled out. Ada. But it was not his voice. The sound was layered, fractured, many voices speaking at once through his lips. Some male, some female, some young, some old. They overlapped, a chorus of broken souls. One must stay, or many will come. The words rattled in the air like dry bones. Ada's throat tightened. What do you mean? Her cousin's body shook violently, then stilled. His head snapped sharply toward her, his gaze locking onto hers with unnatural force. His eyes gleamed wet and black. If you leave, the voices said through him, the lodge will hunt your bloodline until it is fed. Ada stumbled back, her candle nearly slipping from her grip. No! The voices grew harsher, scraping like metal on stone. It must be one. It must be you. Blood for silence. Flesh for peace. Her knees weakened, her vision swimming. She understood now. The lodge wasn't haunted. It was alive. It fed on the living, devouring them and trapping their voices, keeping the villagers in fear. Every missing traveler had been swallowed whole by this place, their essence bound to the walls. The only way to end it was to give the lodge what it wanted, a soul willing to stay. Her cousin's body convulsed once more, his limbs jerking as though yanked by unseen strings. Then, with a final shudder, he collapsed to the floor, lifeless, his head twisted at an impossible angle. The room fell silent except for the thunder in Ada's chest. Her candle flame guttered low. She stared at the still body, tears burning her eyes. She wanted to run, to scream, to claw her way back to daylight. But a deeper part of her knew the truth. If she left now, the curse would follow her bloodline. Her parents, her siblings, innocent souls who had never set foot in this place. The lodge wanted her. Ada's lips trembled as she whispered a prayer, her voice shaking with every word. She thought of her family's faces. She thought of the children in the village who walked past the hill on their way to fetch water. She thought of the strangers yet to come, who might take shelter here one stormy night and never leave. Her hand stopped shaking. She stepped fully inside the room. The door slammed shut behind her with a force that rattled the walls. Her candle flickered once and went out, plunging the room into suffocating darkness. The lodge exhaled. By morning, the storm had passed. The villagers gathered at the base of the hill, their voices hushed, their eyes fixed on the looming shadow of Crescent Lodge. For the first time in decades, the house was silent. No cries drifted from its windows. No footsteps echoed in its halls. No pale faces peered from the glass. Many believed the curse had ended. They were wrong. On stormy nights, travelers still speak of Crescent Lodge. Some claim that if you look up at the far window, you'll see her, a young woman with a faintly glowing candle in her hand, her eyes empty, her lips pressed to the glass, as though she is waiting for the next soul who dares to enter the last room at Crescent Lodge. And if you ever hear your name whispered on the wind as you pass the hill, do not turn. Do not answer. Do not look back, because the lodge remembers, and it is always hungry. If this story gripped you, terrified you, or made you shiver, don't keep it to yourself. Back into Next Pointing Right, like, share, and drop a comment. Your encouragement keeps stories like this alive and the old folktales breathing. The shadows are not done with us yet. Stay close, for the next tale awaits.